hunt is on for serial kidnappers who are abducting people from the streets of D.C. and in many cases forcing them to withdraw cash from ATMs.
There have been 6 similar kidnappings in less than a week. Fox 5's Stephanie Ramirez live tonight in D.C.'s Parkview neighborhood with the latest. Stephanie?
Okay. So, as you guys know, I was raised in Washington, D.C. My family's from D.C. Look, I just moved from D.C. a few weeks ago. People in D.C. are wokety woke. And they love criminals, okay? The culture there is very hood. Very thugged out culture. Like D.C. breeds gangsters, okay? You have a lot of single mothers. I mean, a lot. Whatever the national average is, 70-something%. In D.C., it's probably 80, 90%. Okay? Very, very tough people. You know, people can fight. They into all that, you know, gangster stuff, okay? They grow up like that, okay? It is what it is. And because of that, you know, they're more likely to sympathize with criminals. Then you have the new group, the white liberals who have come to D.C., and they also sympathize with criminals. They're wokety woke. They're quick to protest. Everything's because of somebody's skin color. Nothing's because of the way they behaved. Everything that can turn racial turns racial. I showed you this story a few weeks ago. The young Sun woman was bounced out of the club, the LGBT club, by a Sun man, security guard. And they made that a racial issue. Almost every story I do from DC is some kind of racial element to it. So they want to be wokety woke, and they view the criminals as, you know, black people instead of as criminals. So whenever you in a place where they don't view black people as black people and criminals as criminals, so a criminal is a criminal, and a black person is a black person. There's a difference. When they don't make a difference, when they view criminals in the midst of criminal behavior as black people first, you're always going to have problems with crime. And the people are fed up right now. This is from DC Real Time News. You should definitely follow him on Instagram if you want to know. I mean, it's crazy in DC. Like, there's a lot of shootings and a lot of crime. Like, a lot. So this guy, he says, keep this stuff up and nobody will want to be coming into the nation's capital. I'm absolutely sick of it. And with these weak politicians, these weak leaders, don't be sorry until somebody be on some vigilante stuff out here. Leave people alone, plain and simple. And that's in response to DC police say 6 times since Tuesday, the same men, okay, so this is the same group of guys, have kidnapped people at gunpoint, forced them into cars, and made them give PIN codes to the suspects so the suspects could steal money. A victim tells me when he gave the wrong code, they burned him with a lighter until he gave the correct one. So it's very important to understand what I just said. Now, they view these guys who are doing this as black people. So if the police catch up with them, it roughed them up, because these guys are not going to want to get caught. They're not going to go down easy. They're not going to, like, they're going to do a chase, and once the car gets stopped, they're going to flee on foot. And once they're caught up with, they're going to rustle and tussle to try to get away. So if one of these guys gets punched, the entire DC is going to lose their mind, okay? And talk about it from a racial aspect. So you have to understand that. All right? So there's really no way this is going to be solved because the police are not going to be, they're not on, it was a movie that came out, I can't remember the name of it, when I was a teenager, with James Brown and Fred Williamson. They were, they had come home from like the, I think the war or something. They had come back to their old neighborhood and it was infested with criminals. And they took the criminals to war, and there wasn't no plan. And they were playing dirty. They were playing just as dirty as the criminals were. But see, the thing about DC people, they're not going to allow the cops to play dirty like the criminals. They want the cops to be nice and cute. They basically want the same cops you would see at like Disneyland, like ripping your ticket stub and letting you in. Or the same cop you'd see at like a massage, a spa or something, a kiddie spa or something. They want those same type of cops chasing these guys that are burning people with lighters until they give them their pin codes. They don't want no real rough and rugged cops like back in the 80s and the 90s that'll come in and kick some butt and put it into this stuff. They still want kind and gentle cops to fix this. And it's not going to work like that. Okay?
The hunt is on for serial kidnappers who are abducting people from the streets of D.C. and in many cases forcing them to withdraw cash from ATMs.
There have been 6 similar kidnappings in less than a week. Fox 5's Stephanie Ramirez live tonight in D.C.'s Parkview neighborhood with the latest. Stephanie?
Hey, Marina, Jim. So I talked to a DC commander today who said that this type of pattern is not something they normally see here in the District of Columbia. I want to take you guys with me here because we're on Georgia, right off Georgia near Kenyon Street. So north of Howard University, you can see how busy it is here during the day. Well, it was in the overnight hours in this area here that DC police say one of these armed kidnappings happened. Others were reported, at least one other northeast DC, and people were stunned all across the district when we asked them about it today on and off camera.
It's another reason to try and not leave aside from COVID.
Now I want to show you the video that the police released here showing these suspects. You can see one flashing cash. There's been at least 6 armed kidnappings reported since this past Tuesday all across the district from the 14th Street Northwest, area that's towards Upper Rock Creek Park to just a few blocks off of Logan Circle, a few blocks off of Mount Vernon Square.
Okay, so we've talked about Logan Circle a lot. If you've been following this channel, you know Logan Circle has been like, they've had 10 years worth of crime in the last, violent crime in the last 3 months over there. This map, it doesn't mean anything to you if you're not from DC. So I don't really know what to tell you, but this is Northwest. This is, in Northeast. These are the heavily gentrified areas of the city. This is what these people asked for. This is what they wanted. You cannot feel sorry for these people. The woke, super liberal, pro-crime, defund the police, criminal justice reform, kinder, gentler policing. Listen, the type of police that's going to catch these guys are going to have to be some rough, and they're going to have to be just as rough as them. And the people can't whine and fuss and throw hissy fits when the cops get rough with these guys. And they are. So you can't feel sorry for them.
A few blocks off of Logan Circle, a few blocks off of Mount Vernon Square. They are happening in the overnight hours between 10:30 at night to 3:30 in the morning. And in each case, police tell us that the victims were alone. A DC police report says that the Northeast DC victim left his home to go to work at around 3:30 in the morning. And that's when he was approached by at least 3 suspects who put a bag over his head and zip-tied his hands.
So, okay. Again, this is not no little kids just being mischievous. Because that's what another thing they're going to try to do. These are just kids being mischievous. When you leave the house with a bag, a gun, and some zip ties, that's a whole new ball game. And that's why I try to tell you, they try to make it seem like all black people just, I mean, you're just a black person. They leave, that's what they do. Like, no, these are criminals. Okay? It's different than a black person. You got to tell these white liberals that. You got to tell them that. They don't understand. I mean, all he had was a bag and some zip ties. Why'd you have to punch him? Like, no. These are criminals, man. These aren't black people. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a difference, white liberal. I'm trying to get you to understand that. They're leaving the house with zip ties, lighters. Who knows if they're going to douse somebody in gasoline? Who knows? But you're going to need a squadron of cops, a unit to take on these guys that are on the same level as them. Okay? Officer friendly ain't going to work with these guys.
A D.C. police report says that the Northeast D.C. victim left his home to go to work at around 3:30 in the morning, and that's when he was approached by at least 3 suspects who put a bag over his head and zip-tied his hands. Another victim by 14th in Allison Northwest tried to run and told police that he was kicked down and punched before he was forced into a vehicle. The suspects were told they are taking credit cards, IDs, phones, and PIN information. Right now, MPD Commander John Haynes says the best thing people can do if approached is to do what the suspects say.
So this is where we're at now. The Metropolitan Police Department is telling the residents of D.C. to do what the guys say. That's great advice, but it wasn't like this before 2020. Before the guy, the dope fiend, died in police custody in Minneapolis. And everybody in D.C. started protesting and tearing up the city and rioting and talking about get rid of the police and marginalize the police and embolden the gangsters and thugs. Because that's the other side of it. They never talk about defund the police. If I'm a criminal and I hear a bunch of squares and lames running around talking about defund the police, it's like Christmas. Because they don't know that the only thing protecting them is the police. They think it's somehow like they're able to walk the streets of D.C. at night or during the evening because, like, I guess something they're doing. No, it's because the police, the specter, the presence, you know, the notion that police might be somewhere makes thugs, operate at a certain, they don't stop doing crime, but they keep it respectable. But once you're the one, it's not like another group. It's the same lames and cornballs that are food. The same working class people, unarmed people that they prey on normally were running around talking about get rid of the police. Because a guy in Minneapolis died. All the thugs in every city, and I'm just using DC as an example, were like, oh, word? Oh, it's party time. We're having a party. It's party time. Okay? Shout out Tracy Lee, man. But it's literally like, they were like, oh, man. So, this is what they asked for. And now they're getting it. And it's only going to get worse as other groups of kids start doing this. And they see the success that these kids are having. And these kids get back to the hood and start, telling, man, how sweet it is and how easy it is. now you got 4 or 5 cliques like this, then 10, then 20 cliques like this roaming the city, being chased around by Officer Friendly in the Super Friend Police Brigade.
Right now, MPD Commander John Haynes says the best thing people can do if approached is to do what the suspects say. So I asked, should people still abide even if they're being forced into a vehicle?
That's difficult to answer. What we have seen, if people resist, we don't want to see anybody get hurt further. There doesn't seem to be any indication, as long as people have been compliant, to harm them additionally. So at this point, being compliant would probably be the best bet. We don't want to see anybody shot because they are armed with a gun.
Now, we know, again, that these suspects are armed. A significant amount of money has been taken so far, but the suspects have not been identified yet. So police are not only asking people to be vigilant, do not go out alone if you can avoid it, but also to report any suspicious information that you may have if it's connected, if you believe it's connected to these incidents. Guys, back to you.
DC police are on a desperate hunt for a gang of men. Investigators say those men assaulted, kidnapped, and robbed at least 6 people over the last week. The attacks across the city started last Tuesday on Corcoran Street Northwest. Police believe that same group of 3 or 4 guys have forced people into cars in 5 other locations in Northwest and on Capitol Hill in Northeast. Bruce LaShan is live at police headquarters with the latest. And Bruce, I got to tell you, this is some scary stuff.
Totally scary. Very, very, very scary. And, you know, Leslie, these kinds of attacks are so common in places like Mexico City and Lima and Bogota that they have a phrase to describe them. They call them express kidnappings or millionaires' tours. People forced into cars at gunpoint, sometimes driven to multiple ATMs and forced to withdraw cash. Well, now it is happening right here.
So now DC is comparable to Mexico City, Lima, Rio, and all these third world, Port-au-Prince, all these third world cities. Now DC is there. And it wasn't like this 2 years ago. I promise you it wasn't like this. I covered DC extensively on this channel. It was not like this until the lames in the squares and the unarmed working class people who are in the house at night and don't carry guns because it's illegal and pay their taxes and do the right thing until they started taking to the streets and protesting against the police and confusing black people with criminals. Because you can be a criminal and you can be black. And you could... But that don't make you a black person first when you're being arrested by the police or when you're in interaction with the police. You're a criminal or you're a suspect. So now DC is being compared to Mexico City. That's what y'all get, man. I don't feel sorry for you.
Police believe this video captures 2 of the kidnappers after they've extracted an ATM card and a PIN from one of their victims. One of the suspects brazenly waving the cash he's allegedly taken from the victim's bank account.
It's not a good thing. It's absolutely not good. We got to do something about it.
It's not a good thing. If you told her you voted for Trump, she'd have cussed you from the rooter to the tutor. If this was a video about one of them boys getting roughed up by some cops when they get arrested, it would have been much stronger language. And you guys know that because you watch the videos. Make sure you subscribe so you can see what I'm talking about.
It's not a good thing. It's absolutely not good. We got to do something about it.
Police believe the 3 or 4 guys have attacked single men out alone 6 times in 5 days, including assaulting 3 men in the space of a few hours early Saturday morning near Logan Circle.
It's very unusual to have anyone kidnapped, and this is exactly what they're doing. Taking people, putting them in a vehicle. In at least two of the cases, we know that they've used what's described as zip ties to tie the individual's hands together as they're putting them in the car, and they are blindfolding them in different manners.
Most of the kidnappings have taken place very early in the morning, but police say one person was assaulted at 10:30 last Tuesday night, another at 11 p.m. on Wednesday.
Push you inside the car, kidnap you, and took you to the ATM. That's the new scene. That's the new situation we have.
Police say the victims have been grabbed, punched, and in at least one case, hit with a gun. The big fear is that the violence could escalate.
I think people need to be more aware that if you are going to go outside late at night, you should probably go in a group or at least paired up.
Now, you do notice one thing about this story. There's no talk about race. The race of the suspects or the race of the victims. And I will tell you that the majority of these victims, because you can't just run up on an average brother in D.C., another hooligan, another hoodlum, another brother that, got that same energy, that same swag as they got, because he may have a gun. Now, dudes like that get robbed all the time, on the streets, don't get me wrong, but what they're looking for is people with money in their bank accounts. They're not looking for nobody whose bank account overdrawn. Okay? They're not looking for nobody, with $26 in their bank account. They're looking for people whose checking accounts, saving accounts, thousands and thousands of dollars and, because when you a brother out here, it's rough. It can get dicey, man. You might have $4 in your bank account, man, and you got to make a decision, man. I'm hungry, man. Do I want to use this and take that? I pay that $36 overdraft fee later, man. I'm hungry, though. I gotta swipe this drink, man. So they know who they dealing with, and they know who they're going after. They know who to go after, and you see it by the neighborhoods that they're choosing, and you see the people that they're interviewing tells you what type of people live in those neighborhoods. But there's no talk of race, none. No, they're burning people, they're blindfolding them, they're hitting them with guns, they're kidnapping all of them, and there's no talk of race or anything. But if a Karen cusses out one of these fools in a Walmart, it's international news and it's viral all over social media. And Twitter's got it trending #1. You can't find this nowhere on Twitter.
The big fear is that the violence could escalate.
I think people need to be more aware that if you are going to go outside late at night, you should probably go in a group or at least paired up.
Give them what they ask for. Don't fight them. They are armed with a handgun. We don't want to see anybody hurt. Try to be as compliant as possible and try to remember everything you can about what's occurring.
Now, police believe that these guys were using a car that had been stolen in a carjacking in Prince George's County earlier in the month. They have now recovered that car, but they are still searching for these guys, and there's an up to $10,000 reward for information. Leslie?
You just have to be so careful. You cannot take any chances with this kind of thing, Bruce. Thanks for that update.
Don't look at your phone. Pay attention.
That's right. Don't be walking and texting. We got to have, you got to be paying attention at all times. It's a good reminder.